G'day and welcome back to my workbench. The Amerigo Vespucci is moving ahead, well, not in leaps and bounds, but in subtle steps of detail. Look, I have scratch built an entire bridge there. It's only a little thing, but it's heaps better than the kit's part. I had to make a replacement part back here for the superstructure at the aft, and that seamlessly fits in there. I've added a few more little things to the deck. The masts, though, they have been put together. But there was a problem with them, and I even had to correct the masks. Not scratch building, I just had to do a little bit of doctoring on them for the rigging. I'll explain all of that and show you how I've got to this stage. She's just temporarily dry fit here to the base so we can see what she looks like. But I think you must admit, the Vespucci is starting to really look like a ship. All right, you want to see how I've done all this? I know I do. Roll the music. Now, one annoying part in this kit is this silly little bridge piece here. It's too tall, it's got no windows, it's completely missing the top, and it's not even, basically doesn't go far back enough. It's just wrong, and it looks stupid. So, I'm going to basically make my own to fit exactly on there and do it as close to scale as I can with windows and everything. Yep, we're going to scratch the pop out of this. All right, let's get on with it. So this little band is just been folded out of that plastic and it fits spot on to the top here of that piece of superstructure. Now that is going to be my base part. The whole idea here being I'm going to make a little rib at the bottom, a thin rib at the top, and then I'll be able to put little struts in for the windows. Because I didn't feel confident enough, because this is so tiny. I mean, it has to be 4mm tall. So I didn't feel confident to cut out tiny little 1mm by 0.5mm windows. So I thought it might be easy to do it this way. Make a big piece, make a little piece, and, put your uprights between, which work as the window frames, and away you go. So there we go. There's that one, and there's that one, and they fit inside each other. So my top section is wider. This is the thing. It is with the plastic wider. So that gives the illusion of that sort of bridge getting, moving out towards the top. Now, I've got to make the top piece. So that was pretty easy. Measure it up off the plastic that I've made. So it will be a part that will fit. Because that's the thing. It needs to fit perfectly with that bent piece. So there we are. That's the little fella. Cut them out. And with this sort of stuff, I'm only using tiny 0.5mm stock plastic, but the trick is always take your time. Take it nice and steady. Don't try and cut it in one. 3 gentle strokes will get you a better cut than trying to rip through in one big stroke every time. All right, so it looks like I've just about got this part cut out. There we go. That's the part I need. And look at that. My little rib bit will wrap around and fit perfectly. Now to glue this in place, that was going to be the tricky thing. So what I did was I created some double-sided tape by folding over that piece of tape on itself, and then I could mount it on there so the sticky tape will hold it in position, because I mean it's kind of a fumbly sort of thing. So with that basically in position there, one side is sort of springing out, but don't worry about that, we'll fix that. Liberally on with the contactor, because this will be inside, no one's ever going to see it, so you can be slap happy as you like. So with that in, push it hard, it should fit perfectly, it was made to bloody fit, and there you go, hold it in place, and I've only got to wait a few seconds for that contactor to give a firm, solid grip. And here is the final result. It does the job. It's okay, and it does fit onto the front there. So, you know. But I slept on it and thought, well, that's okay and that'll work, because that sort of solved the problems of having to cut out tiny little windows, which I didn't feel confident in doing. And, you know, using the styrene rods there. So that sort of gave the impression of windows. But I didn't really get the slant on it, because the original part had quite a slant. It does. It's supposed to come out. So I had to think about it, and I woke up in the morning and I went, well, you know, if I made it out of paper, you do it like this. You'd have the roof, and then all the side pieces had come down, and they'd all be tapered, and it would all join up. And I went, okay, well, that works. So I made a little paper one. Yeah, okay, that works in principle. So I went, okay, well, let's make that out of styrene. And I did. Okay, but no windows. But out of styrene, that was possible. I got all the trapezoids to work, and I got the whole shape to work, and that will fit perfectly onto there, and it makes up the bridge. And it'll be exactly as it is in all the photos. But how to make those windows? Well, this is where the cleverness kicks in. This top piece that's on here, it is the thickness of the top of the frame. So all I needed to do was make panels that had slots cut into them. See? All my windows, there it is. The whole thing is tapered in both directions. There you go. And that looks exactly like they're on the ship. Now the rear of it, it only has little poles which are really thin, and then a canvas. And in fact, this top here is actually canvas as well. So I could scratch that, but I'm sort of getting to the point where I really want to get on with things. What I really want to do now is dress this missing piece here. at the stern. As I say, that was in the kit, and it did go all the way down to the deck. But I've since found in my examinations of both the Hella 1150 kit that I've got and some really good photos a friend sent me that it is only at the top. So I cut out some flat plastic and bent it to shape, and then I cut the windows out and I made one of these. Once I give that a bit of a sand and a paint, that's going to fit perfectly underneath this little overhang. So it'll basically fit in there. And that solves that. So I've got a bit of touching up and sanding to do and some painting to do. So while I get all that done, how about we have a look at the mast? Really am getting down to the last of things now. I've got to get back to part one, the mast assembly, because I just jumped into all of this. Because that's, usually with a boat, you work on the hull first and superstructure and then masts. So I've sort of built it in the way that I build ships. Anyhow, not much to it really. And most of this is orange. There's a little bit of white trim on some of these little platforms here. Call them crow's nests if you like. They're not really, not on this kind of ship. And of course, not a Posca. This is my orange pump action, as a lot of you have got all excited about, but it's an iron lac, and it just happened to be exactly the right colour. Now, checking all the photos, it appears, as I've done in this lower section, everything is orange. So, just a bit of a touch up there, something I missed. But basically, this pen does a much better job than paintbrush, and this stuff is all self-leveling, and it gives a lovely sort of satin sheen. So how easy is that? It's a bit shiny at the moment, but it self-levels, and as you can see here, it dries to a sort of a satin, and it's really lovely. You don't get any brush strokes in it, or pencil strokes, and it's really easy and it's fast. I love these paint pens. Now these little platforms, I had a look, and in the kit you can't tell what's top or bottom. There's no details, and there's no way I'm going to spend my time super detailing them at this scale. They are just too small. But one thing I noticed is they're orange on one side, all right? So this is straight over the plastic, right? Orange, ta-da, that will self-level, that will look fine. But on the other side, where you traipse around, right, where the guys are going to walk, they're that brown colour that I've been painting quite a lot of things. And it just so happens I have that in a Posca pen. So we can put that on here as well. Alright, so always give it a second coat. And the interesting thing is the edge, that is actually white. So what I'll probably do when I'm finished is I'll just gently sand across that, and that'll leave a nice white edge all the way around. Done. Painted. Ready to go. I've been detail painting these masts and getting these things ready, right, these platforms. And then something occurred to me. If you'd been watching my St. Louis build, you remember with the crow's nests on that, I realised there were no holes for the ratlines to go through. Now, there's none of that here, but if you have a look at the instructions, what they want you to do is, at the bottom here, they want you to put the ratline, well, the shrouds, right, through a hole in the bottom of the mast. Okay, well, that would work, but it's completely wrong because it should be above the platform and between those two paths, right? Where those masts go together just underneath the cap. That's where they're supposed to go through. It's only a little thing, but I mean, I've come this far, I might as well get it right. And the thing is, I'm not using my photo etch rat lines this time. I'm actually going to try and rig it. And similarly, on the top one, they want you to sort of come around the back of the platform and then go through a hole which they have made in the correct position. So here they have got a hole, right? Excuse fingers, you can tell I've been painting. They have got a little hole there, but what they want you to do is this. They want you to come around the back of that platform, right? Now, I had to think about this because I sort of wasn't happy with that. And, you know, the one down the bottom here, that's how it is. So, it's not scratch work, it's just a little correction. So what I did was, I cut out a gap, okay? And this gap, I'll show you on the main mast, which is the one I cut it out for. And you might be able to see that little slot that I've made gives me 2 holes either side, and I've drilled a hole here through, because there is one there, but they didn't have this below. There is a hole here now. So my rat lines, well, my shrouds can come up through there, through the hole and down again. And that should be fairly easy to rig. It shouldn't be really that hard to do. And those holes are plenty big enough. I've made them much bigger than what they've allowed for. So to fix this problem on the foremast here, I'm going to need another one of these holes, and I'll need it here. So instead of using that hole to thread everything through, I'm going to need to make one just there. It's not hard to do. Pin vise it through. Okay, and then this hole, well, a little bit of the old plastic putty is going to solve this problem really quickly. And you know I love this stuff because it's water based. You can basically just poke it in and wipe off anything that you don't need. Now to correct these platforms, I found halfway along here was a good point to cut, and then come out basically the same width as that. In fact, it worked out exactly this much, which made it really easy when it came to file it later on, because that profile for the file is exactly what I wanted. So that's what I've got to do. I've got to cut out a file head shape hole there. Okay, that one's done. I probably will need to touch up the paint a little bit, but I mean, you know, you can't make an omelette without scratching eggs, so that's easy enough to touch up with the pens. But that's that one done. I've got 3 more to go. I'll get those all done, and then I can start assembling the masts. Well, I think my plesiosaur approves. Yeah, the Vespucci is starting to actually come together, and I'm very, very happy with what's happened so far. The decks are still dry fit in because I can't glue those in until we do these rat lines. Yeah, they unfortunately go through the deck and wind around. Look, I've explained all that later, but you can't actually glue the decks in until you actually run the rat lines, which is a weird thing with these Lee kits, all right? Even though this is the basically was originally an MA kit, all right? Now, Very happy with this bridge. I know it's only a little thing, but you know, if we carefully, if we look up close, we can see right through those windows. And that to me was just a thing to achieve. That's mainly. And the same here at the stern. Those windows there, they're open. I thought of glazing them in, but I just painted black behind them and they've come up well. My masts are still dry fit because I can't really cement anything in or glue these decks down until we've basically done those rat lines, all right? So there's lots of things that need to be done. Something that you haven't seen that I'm working on. Can you see? Railings. Yeah. I found a set of Kriegsmarine 1350 railings that had the correct number of rungs and pretty well close to the post position that would match the photos that I saw. So that is actually the correct piece that will go at the stern. There's also another little piece here that runs to the steps, and there's some pieces here basically that feed in around the boats. We'll have to see how the boats fit, and there's a piece that goes here at the bow. There's still quite a few little fiddly things to do. The reason you can't put the front and the rear deck in, right, fore and aft deck, is there's these little holes here for the shrouds because they run up to through that little hole that I made, and they go through these masts. And the thing is, you thread them through and round and up and down and everything, so it's one continuous piece, which is a clever idea. Saves you having to try it and glue down and then glue up and that. So basically just go up and down, up and down, up and down, bang, you know, and you do both sides because it goes from here up through, round, down the other side, and then loop and back, and you know. So it's a clever idea in getting some cordage in so that you've got this very clever and detailed look for the shrouds. Whether I can actually put some rat lines on there, don't know, because I'd have to make a really tiny rat line tool to fit in there, but you never know, it might be possible. Still got things to do. There's lots of stuff here that's just dry fit. These little guys keep falling off. They can't actually be glued in at the moment because they sort of clamp down on the deck. And the boats have got to go in. So we've got the boats to do, and that means lots of davits and things. There's quite a lot of stuff. They recommend not putting the boats in until after you've done the rat lines, and that's probably a good idea. Get the rat lines in, glue the decks down, do all that. You know, you've got to do that because then your davits can go in and they sit on top of the decks there, and then the boats. So it's all chicken and egg stuff. As always with these sort of ships, you know, you've got to work in certain ways to build up layers, and you've got to paint as you go. So I've got all the boats to make up. That'll be fun. The yards have to go on the masts, of course, and I'm going to try and see if I can't get a lot of rigging done on those masts before I actually put them in. It's an idea I've got. It's not what I would normally do, but this being so tiny, with my experience from doing the Nippon Maru, right, I wondered if gluing the yards in and then actually do all the rigging on the yards first before you actually put them in might be a good way to do this. Whether that'll foul up with trying to do the rat lines, I don't know. Because my usual method is, you know, do the stays, you know, forward stays, hold it all down, put the shrouds in and the rat lines, right, then do your backward stays. But that's on a much bigger ship where you've got, you know, you're able to sort of get your fingers in. With this thing being so fiddly, I wonder if it's not a clever idea to completely rig and set up the mast first and then put them in, because no matter what, you've got a little fiddly job of running everything. Don't know. We'll test that next time, that theory, and see how it goes. There'll be a bit of a break before I do another one of these Vespucci videos because I've got a few other things to do this month, and I've got a promised Patreon build to start in July. But there will be a pickup later in July on the Vespucci. I'll work on it sort of quietly in the meantime, and I'll see if I can get that tricky idea with totally rigging the yards on the masts, and then it's just a simple matter of popping them in and only really running the you know, the braces and a few other things. That would make rigging so much easier. Of course, then the decision is, do I put sails on or not? So many decisions to make now, and I've got to really think things through, but I am quite happy with the work done so far. Love my scratch bridge. Love the way that aft piece turned out. The whole thing's just coming together so nicely. I mean, it's tiny, and it's the limit of my ability to see things, but I'm pretty happy with it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. You know, I like it when you do that. And of course, it makes the bots promote my videos more, helps my channel out. Make a comment, just be respectful about it, okay? Tell me a joke. And don't forget to sub to my channel, and then you'll get notified, well, click the notification bell as well. You'll get notified whenever a new video comes out, right? If you're waiting for the next Pucci video. And if you really like what I'm doing, you can hit that super thanks. throw me a few shekels. It really helps so I can afford to keep producing these videos for you on YouTube. Alright, that's enough waffle for now. So it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.